From the wide circuit and paved runoff of COTA, we change gears and attempt to tackle the narrow, grass-laden Virginia International Raceway. While it has become both a magnet for professional racing as well as weekend enthusiasts, it retains its tricky nature that challenges all comers. Will our drivers be able to figure out how to tame this beast? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Porsche Owners Club Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. VIR rose from the ashes after disappearing for decades. To find out what it's turned into, let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Virginia International Raceway. This track near the southern border of its namesake has had the rare blessing of being resurrected from the dead. With 2 decades of use in its modern incarnation and still drawing regular visits from IMSA and Trans Am, it's safe to say that VIR is back and thriving. The owners didn't skimp on refurbishing the place either. An impressive 7 versions are available to run on iRacing, with viewing areas that include posh villas near South Bend that can be rented by fans. The track's long and complex layout has earned it some colorful corner names too. The horseshoe kicks things off right away with a never-ending double apexer that tends to suck the greedy out into its runoff. Later on, fast cars lacking downforce are sent through the terrifying climbing S's and spit out of the steep drop of South Bend. Of course, there's perhaps the most famous turn of Oak Tree, which has sadly lost its eponymous flora in real life, but is retained here in the virtual world. Let's not forget one of the scariest obstacles at the end of the lap, the roller coaster. The incredible speed drivers carry up into this blind braking zone is what causes it to require such immense bravery in order to get the most out of a lap. As you'd expect, the high number of corners makes passing rather difficult. Add in the fact that many of them are dangerously swift, and track position can wind up being a major factor in races. With the picturesque backdrop of the Appalachians around them, fans are not left wanting when they come to watch drivers face off at this historic track. It's no wonder the circuit has found success in its second chance at life. DJ, this has become a haven for sports cars, no doubt, but what about the Porsches specifically today?
Well, Joe, as is the case that anytime a car takes to the Virginia International Raceway, it is going to be a challenge. This is a mega circuit, 17 turns, and all of them seemingly just as tricky as the next one. There are 2 very solid overtaking opportunities that we see a lot of times, specifically in GT cars around here, and that is turn 1 going into the horseshoe, that sort of double apex, slightly opening right-hander off of the main straight, and then into the roller coaster off of the long back straightaway. And the layout we are running today, there are no other chicanes in that, so it is a straight blast. Oak Tree is always a tricky corner though, and one of the ones that drivers are going to have to absolutely nail if they want to take advantage of that passing opportunity going up into roller coaster. Now, we do have to talk about the off tracks here though, because they are very easy to get. It's not a lot of paved runoff like you said in that intro, like we saw at COTA. It is all grass right up to the edge of the track, and in especially these 911 RSRs, if you put a toe offline, the high power in these cars, very easy to send you off and spinning. People are going to have to be very careful pretty much in that run all the way from the horseshoe up to the Oak Tree, as we have seen more than a fair few drivers get caught out already during practice and qualifying.
Yeah, I think being mistake-free is definitely going to be an aim for many just to get to the finish. But before we get to that finish, we need to remind you of our sponsors, which includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. As well as Sunset Mortgage. Don't put your money in the bank, be the bank. Check them out today at sunsetcash.net. And Octavio Tequila. Celebrate now. For a great tasting tequila, go to octaviotequila.com and purchase today. And finally, Century Financial Consultants, making the rest of your life the best of your life. You can check out their website at centuryretire.com. If we look at the points championship, the GT1s are still being led by Travis Brown. Michael Johnson still looking for that first victory, but only 8 points behind. He has yet to finish outside of the top 10 this season. Brian Salehi creeping back up into things now that he has gotten back into the races as well. Corey Lotfala only 19 points back from our leader before you get a big jump down to BJ Fulton that just can't seem to keep the consistency we've seen some of the others have. What about the GT2 standings, DJ?
Well, it continues to be Jerry Freckleton on top by 29 points over John Mohmeyer. That's 3 wins for Freckleton to only 1 for Mohmeyer, despite the fact that Freckleton has not had a single pole yet this season. So he will be trying to break the duck in that category as quickly as he can. It is a decent way back as well to Aaron Edwards, but that's where it starts to tighten up a little bit. 3rd and 5th separated only by 12 points, with Edwards, King, and Fulton running very, very close. It is a good battle there, and one we'll have to keep an eye on.
Well, let's also keep an eye on the race itself, and here's our race details to help you with that. We are on round 10 out of a 24 race season that spans an entire year of 2021. The 2 different cars that you can choose equal the 2 different classes that are running, and it is a 45-minute open qualifying that they are in the midst of currently, as well as a 30-minute race that we're getting to in just a few moments. It is open setup. Hopefully drivers have managed to kind of dial them in here so that the cars feel comfortable around a very technical track. Salehi with the pole position provisionally in the GT1 class, and Jad Duncan with the provisional pole in the GT2s. There is Salehi just starting on another flyer right now, and he's got about half a second over Hagendick, so it's looking pretty solidly in his favor.
Yeah, it certainly is. Bayern with a good advantage here, and a lot of that technical precision that is required to get around here. Not exactly surprising. We've seen Bayern really have some good runs over the course of this season thus far.
Small correction for ourselves. It is a 90-minute race today. It is an enduro, so drivers will have to have practiced their pit stops and figure that strategy out. As Michael Ost pulling off the track. I'm not sure why. It seems to be done at least with that set of qualifying. He'll get 6 more laps to try and get around and put one in. Does take a bit to get around here, so he can't dilly-dally too long. Sipik, by the way, as we watch Freckleton here in 4th in the GT2, Sipik in 2nd, also one that has half a second to make up to try and overtake Jad Duncan. He's actually still out on track trying to see if he can get himself quicker.
Yeah, see if he can get a little bit longer. But with this being an endurance race here, Joe, I'm going to say that qualifying not going to be nearly as important as we normally see it being in the shortened sessions. We watch here, though, as BJ Fulton crosses the line. That's going to be starting a flyer right here. He's going to have that traffic in front of him. Not going to like that. That can certainly hold him up a little bit.
I think Salehi's just finishing his most recent lap, seeing if he can extend that gap over the rest of the field. See if this one was clean. It was, but he was about a 10th off of his quickest, unfortunately. Next one across the line is going to be Mark Rondeau, who sits in 3rd in that GT2 class. Has about a quarter of a second to make up to catch Sipek, see if he can get himself onto the front row. Let's see what this Cayman's got underneath him. 55.4 is his quickest, and a 2:03. That looks like maybe that was an out lap, so he's not going to be faster.
Yeah, he'll have about 5 more minutes to spool that car up and try to go for it. We're going to jump back to Tyler King, though, another one of the GT2 drivers. Tyler coming to the line. Looks like this is going to be a hair more competitive, but still slow for the Northwest driver as he crosses over with the 2 minutes flat. Paul Newton there coming into the pits, but we're going to focus on Michael W. Johnson. Looks slow again. I think this is an out lap for the Coda expert.
Yeah, and he has not had a pole yet this season, so he's going to start from 4th. He'll at least be within those first 2 rows, but not expecting him to try and charge forward and snatch that away in the dying stages unless something wild happens here. This is Baccignone now down in 10th as the California driver comes towards the line. Last time lap for him was his quickest at a 43.1. This one not going to count, so He'll cycle back around. Alan Stad, who's got a very spiffy looking paint scheme, I have to say. His latest lap is about 5 seconds off, so he's back on it once again. BJ Fulton this time is not going to get a timed lap, so we once again have Brian Salehi, and he also once again is not able to improve, but this time he was within half a tenth.
Yeah, and that is really, really mega to keep in mind of trying to put down that consistency. If he's able to keep up that consistency during the race, he is certainly going to be absolutely brutal at the front of the field.
Watching Rondeau once again. This looks like a little bit of a better lap for him as he comes out of Hogpen. A lot of bumps on this circuit since this is before it was recently paved within the last 5 or 6 years. And so he must have had an off track because that one did not count for him. I think Sipek's going to be up next with that classic Martini livery. Just trying to shorten the slight curve on this straightaway. And as he crosses, another one that is struggling to get a clean one down.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to do it, but here comes Tyler King as he crosses over a couple of tenths off there for the 211. Newton again, I think Paul is relatively happy with his current qualifying in 8th. Oh, Jacob Abrams having it off.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to get back out and get another lap in. Baccignone in the Kermit car. Let's see. He runs across, and a 43.1 will put him up into 9th. He immediately pulls off, decides that he's done with his qualifying.
And here comes BJ Fulton trying to improve on that 6th place. BJ's not gonna get it, unfortunately, but he'll have time to get one more. Michael Ost looking like he's having a little adventure off into the woods there, so that's not gonna be a good lap for him, but here comes Travis Brown.
Neither will the next lap be for him. So unless he really pushes it, gets back on and going, he's done with qualifying. Brown, his lap didn't count. Hollander's did, but it's a slow one for him. And Hagendick is coming up along the backstretch into the roller coaster right now. Gulf livery is popular in racing here in the sim and in real life, with McLaren bringing that to the track in Monaco. As Hagendick hoping to find some speed like that McLaren. Let's see what the Porsche holds, as his quickest is a 42.4, 4/10 of a second to make up to catch Brian Salehi down and across the line. That's not quicker.
He's not going to get it there, but Matthew Sipek now making his way out of the roller coaster and coming back around. A little bit of a bump there that he caught. I think he probably had to put a little bit of corrective steer into the car. He'll be able to cross with one more if this isn't good, but he's going to be close to his best time for sure. Your commentator lied to you there, about a second off. John Momeyer starts his hot lap now, currently in 6th. Remember, that's John in 2nd place in those GT points.
A leader in the GT2 points, Freckleton, doesn't manage to improve. A minute left, so drivers will have to push to get across the line to start their next flyer. Newton all the way down in 8th. Is this an improvement? No, it is not.
Here comes Doug Baccignone. He's looking slow here, so he's going to basically just be trying to set himself up for the best lap he can this next time out. As there he goes in 9th place. Corey Lotvilla comes across the line. Same thing for Corey. 30 seconds to go here in qualifying.
Rondeau and Hollander. Rondeau doesn't go quicker. Hollander doesn't either. Seems like it's hard to find any more gains here late in the qualifying session. Ost doesn't have that one count, unfortunately. Michael Johnson still trying to get onto the front row, and it's a 48.6. That's not going to do it. He'll get one last shot. Who's the first to get the checkered flag? Matthew Robinson from 10th, who we hop on board with. Let's watch and see what he can do.
Here he comes out of the roller coaster. So tricky to try to get that car back to the right to set up in the run down the hill. Now takes it through Hogpen. Try not to take too much curb there, as it can unsettle the car ever so slightly. I think he found the right amount. He's going to come on in.
Abandons his lap. Doesn't like how it looks. I saw Paul Newton have an off, so he's done. That means it'll be Travis Brown next in 12th, second to last in his class. Alan Stad, the only one that has put a lap in slower than his. So as he takes that beautiful Castrol livery up and over the crests of the backstretch. He has to spot his brake markers into the roller coaster. It's looking tidy so far. Down to the apex, nice and controlled with that 300 machine. Comes now down into the hog pen. Needs to be within the track boundaries or else he'll go bounding off into the grass on the outside. It was once again good. So this 43.6, does it become anything less? Yes, a 43.3, and that will get him into 11th.
A very good run for him. Now let's check on Michael Ost. Looks like he's going to come into the pits, so that lap's not going to count for him. But behind him, I believe that's Alan Stad coming to across the line. That's a very quick lap, so that's got to be a little bit of a bobble for him.
Yep, it looks like he didn't improve. Neither did Johnson. Corey Lotvala stays where he is, and that is it for our qualifiers. So our grid is now set for another of our enduros here in the Porsche Owners Club. This is going to be interesting to see if anybody can maybe get a surprise good results with it being a little bit different from the nature of their typical races. Usually it's 30 minutes that they run around here. It'll be triple that here today with a pit stop mixed into it. Last few seconds are going to have to tick away, then we'll go through your starting order for the race. And the drivers, I'm sure, have been hotly anticipating not only what is a difficult track, but a difficult track that has some of the most laps that they'll have to deal with over the course of the season. All right, our session is through. Let's go through that starting order here today for our drivers. It will be Bayan Salehi, who is on the pole with Eric Hagendick in second. Corey Lotvala will be P3. Michael Johnson starts fourth. It'll be Michael Ost in fifth and BJ Fulton P6. Jacob Abrams in seventh. Paul Newton eighth and Doug Baccioni in ninth. Matthew Robinson rounds out the top 10. In the next slide, last couple will be Travis Brown in 11th, Matt Hollander in 12th, and Alan Stad in 13th.
Starting off on pole for that GT2 field, it's going to be Jad Duncan, followed by Matthew Sipek, with Mark Rondeau and series leader Jerry Freckleton in fourth place. Behind him, it is Aaron Edwards and Freckleton's championship rival John Momeyer in sixth. And rounding out the back row, it'll be Jeffrey Shulam and Tyler King.
We get a full pace lap around here, so they'll have a chance to try and get things all warmed up and ready to go. Prep the cars and launch them down into the horseshoe. But I'm very curious in this race about what you think is going to be happening with those pit strategies here today, DJ. Do you think that will make much of a difference? It can be a little tough to pass sometimes.
It certainly can be, and where I think it may get just a hair interesting is at 90 minutes, I would be expecting anywhere between 2 to 3 stops rather for these drivers. If they choose to, on the final stint, I think there is a chance that you can see some guys through a little bit of a gamble and decide to go for new tires if we really start to see some abrasion over the course of the run. That is going to slow them down in the pits. It's going to take more time stationary, but it could very well put them in a better position with a little bit more grip and speed as the race comes to a close.
This is definitely a track that I have not the best of memories racing at, as I've given away a couple wins over the years at this one in my official iRacing career. But DJ, we talked about it before, keeping those mistakes away. Where are we most likely to see them start to erupt?
Well, I think you're really going to start to see it come through NASCAR bend, left hook snake, as I talked about, really that run from the horseshoe all the way up to the oak tree. Specifically, if you see some passes attempted to be made going into the horseshoe, that can get your blood up a little bit. You're maybe a little upset you just got passed. You're pushing a little bit too hard. That's an area where we tend to see it a lot. Now, the rest of the run, right about where they are now, actually on the way to oak tree, coming up through South Bend and that sort of lazy sweepers as it comes up. Those are pretty easy flat out in both of these cars. You may have to do a little bit of lifting off of the throttle, but it's not too crazy. The other area they're gonna have to keep an eye for, well, that's the absolute blind dip coming through roller coaster. It is very easy to unsettle your car a little bit, maybe have a little bit too much steering lock as you're coming down the hill and back onto the power, and we've seen some tire spins start to happen. The other thing, frankly, is even though it's a great passing zone, going into horseshoe, if you get offline there, it's very easy, especially as the track rubbers in, some marbles start to kick up onto the outside, you get up into that gray, and you just go wide.
Well, we'll see if we get a win for some of our drivers that are still seeking one. Chad Duncan moving down into the GT2 class has already claimed 2 despite running only 3 races. So his strike rate is looking pretty good considering he's starting from the pole. I have a feeling that he is going to be adding to that tally unless disaster strikes. Sipek would certainly like to try and challenge him on that. He's also only had 3 races this season. Matthew could also find himself shooting up the order and challenging for the championship as they now come through roller coaster and into Hogpen. Brian Salehi going to be looking for that green flag and leading them down into the horseshoe. Who's got everything warmed up and ready to really get onto the binders into one of the more popular places to overtake? They got to wait a bit before that pace car comes in. There's the pit entry, and there it goes. Let's see when Salehi decides to accelerate. Green flag is out, and he's on it. It looks like Hagendick did not get a good start already. Michael Johnson looking to maybe try and take it 3 wide, because that's Johnson and Latvala on either side, braking hard down into the horseshoe. Are they going to be able to get through clean? A little bit of an off at the very back. Still side by side amongst many of them, but it looks good through there. Let's go to the GT2s.
Well, Chad Duncan was able to get a very good run, and despite an early challenge from Mark Rondeau, Matthew Sipek able to hold on to that second place for the moment. Oh, but that is Duncan going around. Oh, we've had a big kerfluffle. Many cars involved. I see Momeyer gets a hit on it. Duncan and Rondeau, I believe, both off.
And at the same time, Newton and Hollander had it coming together into the left hook too. So both classes saw accidents simultaneously. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Sipek is now leading ahead of Freckleton. Duncan down to 6th in class.
That's Jerry Freckleton doing what Jerry Freckleton does best, just stay out of incidents and get himself forward. As there you see, that's Paul Newton trying to make his way around your GT2 class leader, Matthew Sipek.
That's making things really awkward between them, but he'll have better power. Oh, down the straight. Who was that he ran into there for a moment? I think that was Freckleton, so he'll lose a lot of time to Sipek, but he doesn't lose a position.
No, he doesn't, but Hollander certainly has some interest in maybe trying to make him lose that position if he can. And looking at Paul Newton up the way there he goes, trying to put some pressure on these two guys, obviously involved in that incident earlier on, trying to see what they can do. Oh, but that's Hollander wide.
He's going to give those spots right back to those GT2 cars. We got a battle for 3rd in the GT1s, Hagendick and Johnson. Michael really wants this spot. He's going to get it because it's Eric who buckles under the pressure. As everybody flies by, he keeps the car from going completely around, but he'll fall to 9th from the podium.
And we're going to jump and check this out from the overhead shot. There you can see Johnson applying some pressure. Hagendick comes to the inside. Maybe a little bit of contact there between the two of them, but that was just a lot of curb, I think, that Hagendick took and definitely threw his car for a loop.
Good news for our GT2 drivers is the GT1s are now fully past them, so they can all focus on their race. As that is Hagendick still being chased by Stad and Robinson. This is Jacob Abrams and Fulton fighting for 5th position. The ever-important exit of Oak Tree. That looked pretty solid for BJ. I think he might have a good shot at Jacob. Let's see if that red and white 728 can defend.
Yeah, he might. Definitely looks like Jacob caught a little bit of the exit curbing there, and I thought that was going to slow him down a lot more than it did. Here comes BJ there in full pursuit. He comes down into the braking zone of the roller coaster, not able to do it. I love seeing the onboards through here, Joe. You can see just how much these drivers are having to fight, those little micro corrections under braking that BJ Fulton is having to do, and being able to keep the car pointed the right way while doing it. It's very, very impressive. Oh, but that's Abrams off.
And that's going to open the door wide for BJ Fulton. Woo, Abrams rejoined was scary for Baccignone. Tried to take big evasive act. We're going to watch the replay from onboard Doug.
He caught him, Joe. I think Baccignoni's got a little bit of damage.
There he sees him go off. He's watching, and he keeps it all the way to the right. Yeah, oh, ooh, big hit from him, actually.
And you can see on the onboard there, that right front quarter panel bumped up a little bit. We can see it there again, just looking a little bit out of kilter. Doug being able to carry on, though. But, behind him, Abrams is under all kinds of pressure from Travis Brown.
Not been the best start for Abrams, although he's back where he began this race. He gained a few positions from Hagendick, and now he lost it right back. Brown all over the back of him, up through the climbing S's. He washes out, though. Can't quite hold on to it. He'll have to regroup and try again, but now look behind. That is the out-of-position Hagendick trying to regain his spots. So I think he'll go from attacking to defense pretty soon.
I think he will too. They separate out a little bit as they get onto the straightaway after Oak Tree. Looks like Hagendick didn't get the best run there. I would have thought he got a little bit of a better one. It looked like he did from his exit. But, Travis Brown going to the inside. Here comes that move. Abrams tries to pinch him a little bit. Ooh, Travis has to lock up and get out of it. Little bit feisty there early on from the driver of the 728, Jacob Abrams.
And that allows Hagendick to really close down on the 300 machine. Both of them looking to get the best launch they can onto the main straight. And I think Brown was just that hair better. In fact, he's gaining on Jacob Abrams now. Which way does the 728 defend? Oh, he doesn't completely cover the inside. And you're right, this is very spicy between them. Brown is not taking no for an answer. He will only take that 7th position.
Ooh, and Matthew Robinson there in the background going off, but we're going to stay here on this battle. Oh, it looks like there that Travis Brown ran a little bit wide coming through NASCAR bend. That allowed for Abrams to catch up a little bit. So if Travis Brown thought he was going to run away off into the distance, Jacob Abrams clearly has some other ideas for him.
This is going to be fun stuff. Eric has not gotten involved yet, which kind of surprises me. I would have thought that he'd maybe try and take something. We've had a problem with Tyler King in the meantime. The 211 is off the track. I think this was a unforced error for the 211. There it is. Just through hog pen. Ooh, oh, that got close, and he may have gotten a hit. And that, I think, was Momeyer. Second in the championship.
And you can see the damage there, Joe. The front of that car definitely took a little bit of a lick. Watch on board. Yep, you can see just a little bit of that hood deformed. So that may slow him down a little bit. Obviously, the GT4 car is not as aero-dependent as some of the other cars on the iRacing service, but still, you get a lick like that, and you'll notice it.
Yeah, I think he is a bit slow because Rondo's all over the back of him now. And I don't think that was just aero damage. I think Momeyer hit the suspension the way that thing bounced on him. So let's see if Rondo makes this quick work, or is he going to be stuck behind?
Well, he's being pretty patient here, which I have to give him credit for. You normally don't want to try to make a pass up through that area of the track.
Doug is off track in the horseshoe. This was of his own doing. Let's take a look at the replay. Yeah, you can see nobody around. He had quite a gap to those behind since they were battling amongst each other so much. Is he just coming hot? Yeah, appears to be the case. Locks it up, trying to keep it from going into the grass, but by that time it's too late. He falls to 12th.
Yeah, and I was watching him a little bit on that. I think he just tried to put a little bit too much steering lock into the car, was trying to maybe do a little bit more trail braking than those front tires would want him to do. So a little bit of a heartbreak there for Boccioni, but he still has plenty of time.
Back up to our leader, Sipek. Ooh, and Freckleton has kept him honest. I think he's actually gained time on the 14. By the way, don't need to go there, but Rondo did get by Momeyer.
So we're right on board here with Jerry Freckleton, doing a very, very good job. He's just been slowly but surely taking this gap down a little bit if he can. Now just follows in the tire tracks. Maybe he's hoping that he can force Sipek into a mistake.
This is why Freckleton has the most wins of anybody. It's incredible what he can do in the race, despite not being the best of qualifiers. As we continue to watch forward on that Martini liveried number 14. Not even a third of the way into the race, and making sure that Matthew has got to watch the mirrors. In fact, he's cut it down even more. It's down to 0.3 of a second. It looks like the 57 genuinely is quicker on pace right now.
I certainly think so. Definitely got a little bit better of a launch there coming out of Oak Tree as they start to accelerate up the hill here. Yeah, he's definitely gaining in here, Joe. He's about, he was able to gain a lot of time, about 0.3 of a second just in that last sector alone. 0.4 on that last one. He is coming in hot.
Another one we don't need to go to, but Stad and Hollander both went off track into the horseshoe. They returned without incident. They went off at the same time, but they didn't touch each other. They just both outbraked one another. As we see whether or not Freckleton can get up to the front and start to control this race from very early on. Not quite close enough to the slipstream, I think, down the front stretch, so not looking for an attack here into the horseshoe.
No, but Jerry is a very heady driver. He very much likes to just control the pace of the race, not go outside of his standing, and just run as consistent as possible. And that's exactly what he's doing. He is just cutting down this gap as much as he can.
Oh, Latvala just went off. Latvala is off course and gives away second to Michael Johnson. I think this had to do with traffic. Yeah, he comes up upon Tyler King and underestimates where he's going. Oh my goodness.
Oh, just very tough for Corey Latvala here. You can see Salehi ahead of him, goes in for King. King doing the best the job that he can to stay out of the way, and yeah, just absolutely misses that braking zone.
And he gets some damage on top of it. Just clips that tire barrier. Where does he come back? He's in 5th right now. I think, ooh, he's flirting with the dirt once again, coming off of NASCAR. I think he should be okay with that damage, and now he has connection problems.
Bad day going to worse there for Corey Latvala. There he pops back, but that's Travis Brown right behind him, very much trying to catch him.
I'm sure he'd love another position. Brown started 11th and is racing in 6th. This has been a great day for the 300. If that connection continues to plague Corey Latvala, he could earn one without even having to pass a car.
He very well could. He very well could. Right on board there. Ooh, that's a big off coming out of Oak Tree.
Abrams instead is going to overtake Brown easily into the 6th position.
Yeah, it looks like there that he just sort of misjudged when to get on the throttle, carried a little bit too much understeer out of the corner, and that made him run wide. He may have actually bottomed out on that curb on the exit, but Brown not letting this fight go away just yet. He is back up behind the gearbox of Jacob Abrams.
Let's stay here, but the traffic has not been kind to Salehi. It's down to 1.6 seconds between himself and Johnson, so I'll keep my eye on that, and we'll move there if that gets any closer. But right now, we continue to focus on who is going to be just outside of the top 5 if Abrams can manage to hold off Brown. Oh, and Ost seems to have had an even better time with the traffic. Look at this. This is for that 2nd spot. Michael Ost, who began this race in 5th, rocks up to the back of the Octavio Tequila machine.
He is indeed, and there is a lot of lap traffic in front of him. That's the third and fourth place GT2 drivers of Edwards and Rondeau. This is going to get very spicy. They're working their way up towards the hill. Johnson, very smart, backs off a little bit. Ost, though, allows him to close in.
Almost goes into Rondeau, and here comes Ost, looking at the outside of the oak tree, and he thinks better of it. I was going to say, that is a tricky one to go too wide into. He'll get another shot, maybe with the slipstream, as they have an easier time now going past the GT2s.
But look at this as well. That's BJ Fulton starting to catch up to the back of him as well, so they can't be scrapping around too much here. But here comes Ost. Is he going to take a look to the inside, coming through roller coaster? Keeps it behind Michael W. Johnson. No, they're going to stay single file through one of those braking zones. Johnson takes a little bit more curb in front, but he's able to get a better exit out of the corner.
What was 1.2 seconds between our first and second place drivers has grown to 4.3. And Johnson is on the rear guard this time. We hop on board with BJ Fulton, watching the pair of them fly towards the horseshoe. Ost, it's not looking likely for an attempt here. That is way too far back. Can Johnson recover? Can he try and regroup and up that pace to put some distance between those behind him and himself, and try and catch Salehi?
He's certainly going to be hoping to, Joe, but, you know, I think one of the things for Michael W. Johnson is he just needs to settle in a little bit. In a longer race like this, an hour-and-a-half long race, it's really important to just sit and focus. If you try to overdrive the car, you are bound to make mistake after mistake.
Speaking of mistakes, I checked in on the battle for the lead in the GT2s. It's gone away. Freckleton, in the last few laps, has been much slower than Sipek. So Matthew now has some breathing room. As you see, our second place driver come out of Oak Tree, continuing to chase. That car behind him is not within the same class. That is Salehi, who is our leader. Oh, and we got a car off behind Abrams. That's Rondeau. That involved Travis Brown.
Oh my goodness gracious, Joe. All right, so here is this traffic kerfluffle, for lack of a better word, as we see it coming into the hill. There you see Brown flashing his lights at Rondeau, saying, please get out of the way. Comes through. Oh, he just runs into the back of him.
And Abrams sneaks by. What a brilliant move from Jacob to get himself into fifth.
Here he comes. Let's see if we can maybe get an on board. There we go. Yeah, you see the spin, just a little dab of the brakes. I don't know how he didn't get collected in that.
Fantastic stuff. Puts him at a distance from Eric Hagendick, who shockingly hasn't been able to really go by them. I thought he would have been able to overtake both of them by this point, considering he seemed to have much better pace. So that will promote Eric up to sixth, though. But he's got to make up about 1.3 seconds to that 7.28. He had to check up slightly due to that incident that Jacob just ran through. And still, we're not a third of the way through this race. We're not even to where we can expect pit stops yet.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. It is guaranteed to just keep thrilling you till the end. Jacob Abrams, though, doing a very, very good job to just keep that car on the road and point it in the right direction. It's netted fifth thus far, but if we keep seeing action the way that it is, I don't think a podium's out of the question for the driver of the 728.
We talked about it before, keeping it mistake-free. That'll be important here today, but he hasn't been completely clean, as he's had a few hits here and there that we've witnessed. Minor ones, thankfully. Ooh, big slide, though, coming off of Oak Tree, and this gives Eric a whiff of the slipstream.
It does indeed. He's going to be a little too far back to actually make the move, I would reckon. And indeed, you can see, though, just as they're at top speed, how easy it is. Oh, maybe I lied. No, he's going to back off before. But look at how much better on the binders he is. Yes, you do get the Constantina effect there, but he is really able to close in.
Starting to threaten. Maybe he thinks now he's got a chance, since it's only one instead of two that he has to deal with. Yeah, I don't think that exit off of Hogpen will quite do it, though. He will get some traffic in front.
Indeed, he will. That's some of those GT2 drivers in front. I believe that's Freckleton and Sipik that they're going to be coming on. So the class leaders there, they will know that this is a battle behind them. They're going to want to try to dance out of the way the best that they can.
Oh, but it's a very horrible spot for Abrams. He wants to look to the inside. He's going to take the apex away, and now he has to defend into the left hook. Hagendick can't quite keep it with him. Coming through the snake now. He'll get more shots at this. Oh, he took a lot of curb, though, coming into that set of S's.
He sure did.
Aaron Edwards just went off from third in the GT2 class. He's going to lose that spot. Jad Duncan back up to the podium after coming from last in the field. Let's take one more look at it.
And we're going to go on board with Edwards here, coming down into that braking zone, starts to get on the binders, carries a little bit too much speed in there, recognizes it, does a very good job to keep it pointed the best way he can.
So I mentioned Jad Duncan got third because of that spin there from Edwards. He's still a long ways back. We have to remember that Jad has taken a stop into the pits. I wonder if he had to get some his free repair in the process. He's still 32 seconds behind Jerry Freckleton. That's not even to mention the leader right now. So Jad's got a lot of work to do, but he's certainly made the best of a bad situation. Rondeau, who we hop on board with, is going to give us a live picture of what happens when you mess up the oak tree.
Indeed he is. And Joe, I can also, as we jump back to check out the replay of this, tries to go in there, brings it around, too much speed. That's really hard to get a pass done into the entrance of the oak tree. That's really a one-lane corner. And I hate to report this, but a very similar thing happened to that great battle we were watching with Jacob Abrams and Eric Hagendick. Hagendick ran right at the oak tree. He's now back to 7th.
And Ost just went off. In fact, Ost got a lot of damage. First, we're going to check the replay of Hagendick. So this is coming down to the horseshoe. Is that Fulton in front of him?
No, this is after he'd already had it, Joe. So I think we may have missed that replay there. He had the mistake going up into Oak Tree.
As we come back live, Ost is now down to 5th, and with a fair bit of damage there, you see him on screen now. So that means Fulton is now up to 3rd, Abrams into 4th, one away from that prediction you made, DJ. He could actually get on the podium here.
He very well could. Now, let's be very real about his potential here. He still has a whopping 15 seconds to get up the road to BJ Fulton. But if he just continues to drive a relatively collected race, he's got a chance. Does have some damage on the back of that Porsche, but he seems to be managing it quite well.
Oh, Robinson is off with Hagendick. This might be related. I think, yeah, unfortunately, into the roller coaster. Hagendick's going to outbrake himself.
I think he smells some blood in the water there. He backs off relatively early and tries to go for the late move, outbrakes himself, and whammo.
Well, that's 2 more cars fighting for position. Oh, and Ost is in. Ost is having to take, well, it looks like repairs. Unless he's getting service done. No, he is getting service done. So he must have taken a free repair. That should help him out for sure, because the car looks pretty nice and clean at this stage. This will send him to the back of his field, though.
It will indeed. And just to note, these drivers do get 2 free repairs tonight. So that's the essential equivalent of having 2 spare cars that they were able to jump into. Ost very clearly taking the first one right now.
Back to the fight amongst Brown, Robinson, and Newton. Travis Brown currently sitting in 6th position. Ooh, he's going to get a little bit held up. That was CPEC there that he's trying to go the long way around. We've already seen this go wrong for drivers before. Thankfully, they're able to keep on the track. Oh, no, not in the case of Robinson. Just gets pushed off, and that is going to allow Paul Newton to get through. That's also Hagendick. Is that for position? Yes.
Yeah, Eric's been really struggling here today, but he may even have a run on Newton here if he keeps his foot in it. And indeed, he starts to look at the inside a little bit, but thinks better of it. Ooh,
oh,
big
no.
off, and there goes Hagendick off.
And Brown is off at the same time. But Brown gets back on before Newton can manage to get through. We're watching Hagendick try to collect the car. Robinson going to go side by side as we go to replay. And we're still live here. Let's head over to Newton, who's going to lose the spot. But he's, oh, wow, immediately chops down. Robinson does not want him to get the inside down into the horseshoe.
No, he doesn't, but Newton trying to think about that outside line, maybe going for a little bit of a crossover here. Good covery, though, there. Matthew Robinson able to plant that car right at the apex and prevent any sort of counterattack.
So that move from Robinson did not work out well for him. Trying to go around the outside of Oak Tree was very costly. I'm sure CPEC probably didn't enjoy it either. Nearly seeing his race lead go away very quickly.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a hair-raising moment there from CPEC, just feeling those two cars on either side of him. We're actually going to check back in on him right there, as that is another one. I believe that's Stad going on by him. Stad up to 9th, by the way, from his starting position of 13th. But CPEC just holding station here. Now a huge gap back to Jerry Freckleton, over 10 seconds.
Yeah, up to 12 seconds after Jerry looked like he was quite quick. Oh, now what's happened to Shulam? Uh-oh. Oh, this is our leader. That's Salehi. Salehi has lost the lead. And this is from Shulam out-braking himself into the corner. He's being lapped. Oh, actually, you know what? I take that back. Let's watch here. I think actually maybe I was judging harshly on Shulam. Oh, he did kind of try and pitch down into the grass there. Hard to tell from that angle, but whatever the case, doesn't matter for either one. They're both losing multiple positions. Shulam down to 7th, Salehi to 3rd, and Michael Johnson, who we mentioned on the intro to this race, has not won yet, is now leading the race and by 3.5 seconds over Fulton.
Indeed, he's got that 3.5 seconds to him. Brian Salehi about 4.5 seconds behind BJ. Now, Brian had the speed outright earlier, so now it's a matter of catching it. Michael here working his way through some of those GT2 drivers. That's Aaron Edwards in front of him that he's going by right now. So he now just has to keep this thing pointed the right way and pray he doesn't have any incidents coming up.
You know, on my VIR bingo card, I did not have traffic being a main issue, but it appears today that it has been just a severe pitfall, even for some of our best drivers.
Yeah, certainly, Joe. And we've seen traffic kind of play a bit of an issue, but normally this track tends to have enough semi-straightaways or true straightaways that you can get by. But it's just unfortunate luck for all of these drivers. They're catching each other in the worst possible zones tonight.
And usually when they're in battle, so they're very antsy to try and make something stick. Why don't we ride on board with Michael Johnson, the driver coach for Circuit of the Americas, going to show us around a lap here at Virginia International Raceway. I found this to be a very scary portion of this track, frankly.
For me personally, Joe, I think every part of this track is very scary. You see him here working his way up through those rising S's like we talked about. It's almost flat out through there. Very, very easy, but very hard to get wrong as well, or very easy to get wrong as well. Now, this is what makes Oak Tree so tricky. You really have to diamond the corner as much as humanly possible. He sees Jad Duncan up the way. This is where you can breathe. This is the backstretch. Take everything in, relax, check your dials. Lines up on Duncan in front of him, moves to the inside. He's going to be happy to do that. He can now get back to the right to get ready for the roller coaster. So tricky, completely blind right-hander. Work it down. You don't want to take too much of that inside curve. Now bring it back to the left and keep on going. Now you work down the hill and into hog pen. Carry as much speed as you can out and around, and then bring it on to the start-finish straightaway here. This is your other chance that you can really breathe. It's one of the only times on the track that there's no bends at all. But now you've got to start thinking again for that first corner, for the horseshoe. Bring it over to the left. Break it about the 200-meter board. Bring it around and be as patient as you can possibly be on the throttle. Pick it back up and stay to the right. Compromise your exit so you'll be able to get the right entrance here through the NASCAR bend. Again, be very patient on the throttle and wait and line up here for left hook. Now this is going to immediately switch back to a chicane, so you again have to compromise your exit as you do it. Bring yourself back in through here, and this is the snake. This is the tricky section. Now you're flat for a little bit before it gets very squiggly here. Here you go, up the hill, rising. Watch the curve. You don't want to take too much to unsettle the car. You get back around again, take a few more of these up through South Bend, and then you're back into the braking zone, into Oak Tree, and diamond that corner once again.
We've had 3 retirements so far. The latest just came as we were riding on board that lap. Tyler King didn't really feel confident in the car, parked it, and is done for the day. Baccignone and Latvala are the other 2 that are gone. The only battle that we've got now, because most of them have separated, is between Newton and Robinson for 6th.
Indeed, Paul Newton with that damage on the rear wing that you can see as they make their way up through that snake. Again, Newton has had a very much of a, no pun intended, considering the track map, a roller coaster of a race trying to get back up here. He was up for a while, up fighting for that top 5, and back down again. But now he's got Robinson in front of him, and he, I think, is on the run.
I lied. There's one more that is starting to brew. This is between Momeyer and Edwards, but John seems to have botched his exit out of the Oak Tree corner because it was down to 0.2 of a second. Now it goes all the way up to 0.6 of a second. There you can see how much smaller he is over the rear wing of Edwards' Porsche. But Momeyer, another one that's basically trying to make up for some incidents a little bit earlier, and is slightly out of position. Oh, he went in strong down into hog pen, almost paid for that.
Hey, I certainly did. I said you got to carry a lot of speed through hog pen, but you don't want to carry quite that much. Now back onto the main straightaway. Momeyer definitely in the hunt here, but I think John also has got to have that championship in the back of his head, is he doesn't want to push too hard and ruin any chance he's got.
Yeah, he needs to collect points. They're going to get passed by that battle we were watching between Robinson and Newton. Oh, man. Yeah, that worked out terribly for the 96. All the time that he had gained has now grown to about 2.4 seconds. Oh, but a little bit of an off there for Aaron Edwards coming through NASCAR. That might bring him back together.
Yeah, it might do just that, but ooh, there you see that gap growing a little bit more. I think that offer Edwards may not have helped Paul Newton as much as he wanted, but here they coming back through again.
Into the climbing S's. Oh, once again, Edwards being forced offline at a very quick part of the track. It all comes right back to Momeyer. It's down to 1.1 seconds once again.
Yep, and there it is to John. I saw the rear end of that red machine of John Momeyer look a little bit squiggly coming out of South Bend, but now they dive down into Oak Tree. Constantino a little bit under braking and then back onto the throttle again. John's been able to get the gap now down to 0.9 of a second, so he's certainly closing, Joe.
Oh, Ost has had another problem. Ost is off into the barriers. He's taken a tow. I'm pretty certain he's already had one of his free repairs. This is a much bigger hit than last time.
All right, so let's watch him here. And yes, I can confirm that he has already taken one free repair, so this will be his second and final. Taking a good amount of the curbing there. Rides it up. That's bizarre.
Did the curbing maybe upset the car and he never fully recovered?
It could be. Let's ride here from the nose cone perspective. Gets it there.
No. Oh.
I wonder if that's a hardware failure. I mean, the car just looked like it suddenly went off to the right.
Yeah, I agree. There's something weird going on, and clearly the car was not handling as it should. Well, that is sad. He's got one more of his free repairs if he is able to get back into the pits. He did take a tow, so it'll take a while before we see if he elects to use that. But this man is now continuing to lead by about 7 seconds over BJ Fulton. In fact, I think that has been consistently much better. Yeah, I'm looking at the lap times between them. Johnson has stretched that out since we last took a glance.
Yeah, he certainly has. The Texan just absolutely pulling away. Clearly, that number 9 machine loving the clean air here. And he's got a pretty clear track ahead of him. He only has Jeffrey Schulem, it looks like, up the road. And about, I would say, he'd catch him at about maybe a half a lap to a lap's time. And then he's got a very, very long shot all the way up to Aaron Edwards.
But we know how quick Salehi is, and he is gaining on Fulton. So that could change the complexions of things. Bayern has plenty of time to try and recover from his mistake. And let's see, what are his lap times like? 43.3 and a 43.6. It's been a 43.6 and a 43.7 for Johnson. So yeah, he's mildly quicker, but not always consistently super quicker. He just is chipping away at times and then gets bigger chunks here and there.
Well, Joe, the cliche you and I love to say, which is the traffic giveth and the traffic taketh away. Once our leader gets up to a little bit more of the gaggle of not only the GT2 cars, but he could very well be lapping guys like Alan Stad in a couple of laps time here if he keeps on the pace that he is. What is that going to do to the overall complexion of his lead?
I don't think it's going to help from what we've seen. I'll tell you that much. But the good news for him is that, let's see, Schulem is a little ways up, but then they've got a huge gap to Mulmeyer and Edwards. So I think they'll at least have a little bit easier time for the next 5 or 6 laps before they get into the thick of it. Unless we get some pit stops or some cars spinning and changing the expected timing of when they catch them. Down that last lap, Salehi, a 43.3. Fulton, a 43.7. Half a second faster for Bayern.
Yeah, Bayern's definitely closing on in, and he can see BJ ahead of him. And rest assured, to a lot of these drivers, once you get that car in front of you, oh, it is like a dog with a ball. You are just absolutely on full charge. You want to get up there and make that pass.
Also, I want to give a shout to Matt Hollander for a never give up attitude. Remember, he was way in the back. He's had multiple offs. He's gone from 12th to 5th as that 69 machine. Oh, and Freckleton's in the pits. Sorry to jump us around, but the 57, is this scheduled or did he have some sort of damage? Checking to see if there was any incident that happened.
I think this may be a pretty run-of-the-mill incident. Yeah, he's taking tires there, Joe. That's a little unorthodox. Oh, but that's an off!
Salehi with another mistake down into the oak tree. This actually... Well, this happened right after... Yeah, you can see Schulem had a bit of an off himself as he went by, but this didn't affect what happened here, which was all on Bayern Salehi.
Yeah, and that, I mean, VIR, Joe, is really and truly, it's a bit of a cliche that we throw around a lot, but it is a massive rhythm track. It's one that you've just got to feel out and feel how it goes for you. And if you get thrown off ever so slightly, especially coming up to a place like Oak Tree like that, it'll just catch you for a loop.
Look at the damage on that rear wing, too. He didn't get away from this one scot-free. This could affect his pace. We'll have to watch. This lap obviously won't be representative because of the spin, but we need to see if he still has the pace over guys like Fulton and Johnson after that, or will he have to duck in, take a free repair, and get back out and hustle?
Well, the way these guys are running and the way I'm looking at fuel numbers right now, I have to kind of think that they're looking at maybe one stopping this race. And if that's the case, Bayern's just going to have to deal with this for another maybe 7 or 8 minutes before he can come on in.
Ooh, Marc Rondeau didn't lose a position, but I think he's got a pretty big hit. Oh, yeah. Oh, that is so easy to do off of South Bend.
Yeah, the track just crests away from you there, and if you get the angle just wrong, it can really step out on you. And Mark there just trying to fight that slide for as long as he possibly could. Did a really good job to hold it as long as he could, but you can see he's got, I think, some suspension damage. You can see the
that was our leader going
damage. By. Yeah, it was.
That was Johnson having another little scare. But, oh, and did Johnson lose some time here? A 44.1 and a 44.3. Yeah, last couple laps have not been as quick. Fulton has gained a good chunk of time on Michael Johnson. And Freckleton's had a problem. Oh, no, big problems for our points leader in the GT2s. He's going to have a monster thwack into the guardrail coming out of Hogpen.
Oh no, Jerry, who is normally so put together in this race, here he comes, coming down through roller coaster right now. There you see, that's the damaged Marc Rondeau directly ahead of him. Johnson streaming on by. Freckleton lining up, takes the curb there, takes a good chunk of it there. Comes in. Oh, I think that car was unsettled there. I think he took too much curb and just sent him spinning.
He was in at a very weird, shallow angle, and car did not like it, so he falls to 5th now. He's able to keep going. Significant damage on the front and significant damage on the back of the man passing him, Brian Salehi. I see Travis Brown now into the pits, and he's going to take his scheduled stop. Did not need a free repair, though. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in terms of pit strategy, it's a little bit close. If he's going to try to do this on a one-stopper, he'll have to do some major fuel saving in this second stint. 50 minutes is definitely pushing it. I'm used to normally seeing between 40 to 44 is normally what I see out of these RSRs, so it's going to be close.
Self-spin for BJ Fulton. Don't need to go to it. Second place driver gave away all the time that he had gained on the leader. So Johnson back up to about 8 seconds over the 277. Eric Hagendick was giving us quite a bit of action before, and they're going to try and lap Jad Duncan second in the GT2s. A lot of blinking there for Hagendick for a brief moment. Stodd, who is with him, I think he may have been overtaken by Eric recently. Need to double check on that.
Yeah, but as we watch here, we see him try to follow in the tire tracks of that Gulf liveried machine. Good lines both there out of Oak Tree. Maybe a little bit wide on the exit for Hagendick, but it doesn't slow him down too much. Stodd here tries to pick up a little bit of the draft, but it looks like Hagendick's just got some more outright speed on him.
Excuse me, I was mistaken. I thought Hagendick was behind Stad, but what happened here is Eric went off at Oak Tree, not this lap, but the one before. That brought Allen up to the back of him, and that's why he's threatening. The traffic has kept him close, but it looks like now that they're in clear air, I think Eric's got better legs than the 619.
Yeah, he does. They do have a gaggle just up the road, though, of those GT2 cars. Looks like that's Momeyer, Schulem, and Rondeau. So that could present a little bit of a problem when they get up to him.
Well, traffic has turned into one of the biggest talking points of this race. Also got Schulem in that mix. I don't know if you mentioned that. So 3 cars in relatively quick succession that they're going to have to try and weave their way past Rondeau in something of a battle. It's about 1.2 seconds with Schulem. So that could always get a little bit more tense. Yeah, and he closes in under braking into the South Bend, which is not good news for Hagendick and Stad.
No, it is not. Ooh, little bit of a run wide there for Rondeau, just trying to carry as much speed as he can out of it. Very shallow line there for Hagendick. I think he expected there. That's Momeyer. He's breezing by right now. I think he expected John to maybe be a little bit slower than he actually was.
Sometimes it's all about that anticipation when dealing with the traffic. Now, is he going to catch these two on the front stretch? This is going to be tight. He'll start to gain time here through Roller Coaster and Hogpin. Yeah, I think this is going to actually work out quite perfectly for Eric.
Yeah, it is. He's definitely going to catch Rondeau here. I think the question's going to be is if Schulem holds him up at all. They get into the braking zone. He's going to have to dive to the inside as they get onto the binders. Schulem does let him go a little bit, but ooh, that brings Rondeau right into consideration for that position.
Rondeau looked, but he couldn't find a spot. Now he's looking again, and poor Alan Stad is the one that has to pay the price, as he has to wait patiently for them to leave a space. It's such a narrow track. Look at this. He's going to try and work one, and now he's going to be able to try and get by Schulem as well. Clever stuff from Al.
Yeah, very much so, but the ones... Oh, there's contact!
They come together, and they're into the wall. A little bit too eager from the 619. He's going to be able to pull away. Schulem winds up facing backwards, though.
Yeah, he does. So we're going to watch this on replay. I gotta say, that's a little bit over ambitious there from Stad. It's a very hard place to try to go too wide.
Yeah, if he waited one more corner, he easily could have gotten past on their way towards the climbing S's. So instead, it wound up costing him not just time, but quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really, really going to hurt him. It doesn't look like there's too much of necessarily aero damage there to Stad's car, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of suspension knocked out of place potentially. It was a pretty decent clobber.
Now he gets past Rondeau, and I don't think, I'm pretty sure Eric is out of his range at this stage. It's 9.3 seconds up to him. So let's try and bring our audience up to speed on the pit stops, though, because we have had a few. Travis Brown has been in and out, and Paul Newton have. Those are only two in the GT1s that have completed their stop. As for the GT2s, there's a few more. Jad Duncan, well, actually, I said, no, Jad Duncan has not. I have to remember, that was for a very early stop, and he was essentially taking a free repair and getting back out on track. So he still needs to come in and take a stop and give away this second place. Jerry Freckleton has taken his scheduled stop, though. He runs in fourth. Rondeau has as well in fifth, and sixth for John Momeyer. So three of our GT2s have completed their fuel stops.
The interesting thing about that to see, though, Joe, is that is early. They came in before halfway. We are just now under halfway in this race. I gotta think that some of the guys that came in a bit earlier like that, they may have to make another stop at the end of the race. I'm very impressed with some of the fuel saving we've been able to see out of everybody else. They may be able to, oh, that's Hagendick off again.
And he's able to keep it going. Robinson had a bigger off. Robinson into the roller coaster, found the tires, and actually nearly ran into Aaron Edwards in the process. Yeah, watch from above here. You're going to see Edwards in his blue car. There he is right there. Oh, another foot or two off to the right side, and that would have been an almighty T-bone.
Very much so. Both of those drivers very lucky, and Robinson electing now to come in and take his pit stop.
So that's definitely going to be a spare car for the 27, based on how that thing looks. And in the meantime, Edwards rather, has elected to do much of the same, except he doesn't have the damage that he needs to repair. But you can see him taking tires, being up on the jacks. Oh, and CPEC is in. So is he going to hand over the lead, or is he far enough ahead of Duncan that he's going to get back out at the front?
No, that's Jad, I think, coming on the start-finish straight right now. So Jad is going to be able to take over the lead here for the time being.
Okay. So temporarily, the 83 will be back at the front where he started from, but he's probably going to have to give this one back. Little lockup there from Matthew Robinson. Robinson back through now, so that settles itself out. Our drivers have spread pretty far apart from one another, though. Most of our battles are becoming strategic ones. We just need to wait and see what's going to happen with those GT1s.
Yeah, we will just have to wait and see. The only driver in those GT2s that has not come in yet is Jeffrey Shulam, but we continue to watch Jad Duncan here. Well, and Duncan as well, as you mentioned, with the early pit stop that he had. I wonder how long he can try to stretch this out. I've got to imagine he's going to be coming in within the next lap or two.
Yeah, because it didn't appear that he took fuel. It was just that free repair that he got out of the way to take care of his damage. So we'll keep an eye on him here for just a little bit more. We're not missing anything else through the rest of the field. We've lost one more, Michael Ost, even though he had another free repair waiting for him, decided not to continue. So we're down to 17 drivers left racing currently, and only 8 of our GT1s are still on the lead lap. Newton and Robinson currently a lap down from our leader Johnson up in that class. Here we go through the roller coaster, the 83. Does he decide to come in, or does he have both speed and fuel saving skills?
Well, he's coming on to the make or break moment through hog pen there, fading to the right, coming on in.
Okay, so taking his stop. Where is this going to cycle him out? Before he was in second, I think Freckleton was far enough behind that we should see Duncan ahead of him, but you never know. Have been quite a wide variety of pit stop times. CPEC with a 41, Freckleton with 40, Rondeau 37, and Momire with the quickest is at a 33.
Well, unless I'm greatly mistaken here, Joe, I don't believe that Jad Duncan is taking tires. So interesting strategy there from the 83 driver. He is still stationary on pit lane, though, ticking past about 35 seconds. Freckleton is now coming out of the roller coaster through hog pen, waiting for Duncan.
It's a long one. 44, 45. Now Duncan goes 46 seconds, a very long stop. Here comes Freckleton, and he's passed. Duncan's got more work to do to try and get back up into second, let alone the lead.
Yeah, the only bit of saving grace that he's going to have in the back of his head here is the fact that he's got about a half a second faster on the fastest lap than Jerry Freckleton. So he's certainly got the speed in that yellow 83.
That puff of smoke you saw from Stad and Brown, that's because that's for position. This is a battle for P7 between that pair. Brown chasing, there's Stad in the gray and yellow car.
Brown obviously on a little bit of a recovery drive here, but he did pit early, so that is part of it. Brown trying to hustle his way up here. Let's see what their exits are like coming out of the oak tree. That's going to be the best overtaking opportunity that Brown's going to have, is going down that long back stretch.
I almost think, though, since Brown has his stop done, maybe he needs to be a bit patient here. Just wait for Stad to open up an easy opportunity to get by, since he really doesn't have to fight him. He's on different strategies. By the way, Johnson pitted from the lead, so Fulton now temporarily our leader. Hollander has also come in.
Didi has. Brown thinks about that move down to the inside. Ooh, very good into the second stage of braking there on Stad. Comes out of it now. I think he may be trying to line up a move going down into the horseshoe.
I wouldn't be surprised. Could Stad decide to pit this time, or does he want to try and hold up Brown? He's not going to pit. Stad stays out. Brown, though, is a little far back. He could have been closer than that. I think we maybe would see a pass, but this is going to take quite a dive to make it stick, and it doesn't look like Travis is willing to risk it. BJ Fulton now comes into pit.
Yeah, he does. So there you're trying to see, and then we ride on board with BJ Fulton as he stays stationary, looking like that 277 driver not going to take tires here.
Oh, Johnson just went off. Johnson, after his pit stop, is going to lose a little time. He gets back on. This was in the roller coaster. Let's take a look at it.
Comes in, just carries a little bit too much speed through the second apex of that corner.
But
Able
he's
to
in
gather it
again.
up.
Johnson is in for a second time. Did he speed last time? What is going on here? This might be the win thrown away. He comes into his pit stall.
He picked up damage, Joe. That's what it was. You saw that little pop on the right rear. He picked up damage in that incident.
Wow. And Fulton now inherits the lead because of that. Now he returns in third because he's still waiting on Salehi and Abrams to take their scheduled service. What's the gap here? Am I seeing right? That's 21 seconds to BJ Fulton. That's what he lost in that one little run down to take his free repair.
Oh my goodness. Well, Joe, we've certainly got a race on our hands. Let's see what Michael W. Johnson can do if he is able to close that gap down at all.
Fulton is also without a win so far this season, sitting 5th in the points. So whether it's him or Johnson, both are going to be eager to try and finally break that duck.
And rest assured, as we tick down under 36 minutes to go, they are not going to be sitting on their laurels here for this battle for the GT1 class.
The question is, 21 seconds, how far back was Abrams and Salehi? Bayon's had a few problems today, so he might actually be out of range. It's kind of a question mark. Let's see, what's the gap overall? 45 seconds between Salehi and Johnson. Yeah, Salehi will give that back then. Abrams giving away second to Fulton as he takes his fuel.
And again, as expected, not taking tires. There is the 728 just waiting to get going here. It is so agonizing on these long fuel stops. You're just willing that car to fill faster.
Yeah, only 34 minutes left. Johnson now back into third. I wouldn't expect that's enough time, even if you did take tires, to try and use them to the best of their ability. So Salehi leads. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the one thing that's going to be interesting and potentially helpful for Bayern Salehi, he's going to be able to get that rear wing repaired. Is he going to have more speed in that car once he comes back out again?
It looks like he was maybe mildly slower, just a couple tenths. It's not huge, but then we've seen he's really going to need every tenth he can get to try and catch up to the leaders and get himself a podium. Here he comes in now. Kind of surprised that he didn't come in and use that free repair with a bit of an early stop.
I am as well, but he clearly knows something we don't here. As you said, he dives down and goes on that way, but we focus back on BJ Fulton.
So Fulton, it will be up to the top. And BJ might not necessarily know or be aware that he's going to be inheriting the lead. So as he goes by, we don't know how surprised he is right now if that 277 is now the new leader. Bayern Salehi still stationary as Johnson comes around. No, Salehi's going. Bayern is off and ahead of Johnson. He is going to get second.
He is indeed. So now that race is really going to be on for third place, potentially. Michael looks like he's come out about 0.6 of a second or so behind Bayern Salehi, or 6 seconds rather, behind Bayern Salehi. So now it's all to play for.
Who is the quickest amongst them in these last stages. Maybe it's not who's the quickest, DJ. Maybe it's who's the most consistent and mistake-free.
I think that's actually probably the more accurate way to look at it, Joe. As we said it in the pre-broadcast, and it has proven very true. Minimizing those mistakes has proved the way to get around here at Virginia International today.
Looking at Fulton's times, he's actually been very good on his flying laps. 44-0, 44-0, 44-0. Just knocking them out. And Salehi, 43-6, 43-8, 44-1, 44-4. So a little bit inconsistent in comparison, but now that he's got a fresh car, well, actually, no, Fulton didn't, or no, I'm looking at Fulton. Salehi's the one I want to see. Salehi did take his spare car. So Salehi is going to have to try and utilize that fresh car now to see if he can close the gap to the 277.
He will indeed. 14 seconds to do it. It's not going to be easy, but he is certainly hustling for it.
So he can get away with about half a second a lap if neither of them has any mistakes, basically. If he can do that, then he'll be able to run him down, but then he's got to pass him. So we'll have to check on those lap times as they start to get some in and see what it looks like and who has got the pace necessary. Back in front of our GT2s, CPEC with, wow, 37 seconds over Jad Duncan. This has not been the best of races for this GT2 class. For Jad to be able to get back into second and also be this far away from the leader tells you the kind of day that everybody else has been having.
Yeah, very much so. It has been very rough and tumble all up and down the GT2 category here today, but Sipek has done a very good job of just trying to keep everything that he can together.
This is going to be great for Matt. Let's see, I'm double checking those points to see what this is going to do for him. He's 102 points behind our leader just because he's only done so few rounds, but I believe, he jumped up 6 positions because of the last round. So we might see yet another of those as he just blows past many of the drivers who can't get in those good results the way that Matt has been doing.
Indeed. And remember, as you said, Joe, this is an entire year-long series, so plenty of time for CPEC to really continue to put the screws to this field and maybe become a real championship contender by the time we take the checkered flag at the end of the season.
Yeah, and they do have drop weeks. I believe, 4 drop weeks out of the 24 rounds. So let's see, if he's only done 3 races, count this as 4, and we're on round 10. So he'll have 2 zeros effectively that will count towards his score. Everything else will go towards drop weeks. Now, that does put him under the gun. He can't have any more no scores or DNFs throughout the season. But, what we're seeing, he's got 2 wins out of 3 races, making it 3 out of 4 if things continue as they are today. I think Matt's going to be genuinely into Hunt.
I think he is too, Joe. And really with the performance he's put on here today, he is one to be very scared of. That 38-second gap. And 45 seconds back to Freckleton, who has just been the class of the field this entire season. It's truly impressive.
Got a little bit of a fight here between Newton and Abrams. This is for the 6th position. No, make that for the 5th position. Look at this. That's Travis Brown in front of them. It's a 3-car fight.
Well, all right, we got a little bit of a battle going on here. It looks like Abrams has got some good closing speed on Paul Newton as they make their way toward the S's here up the snake. Very quick section. It's going to be all to play for as they go into Oak Tree, as we always say.
Travis is off. Travis gets back on the course just in time and covers off Paul Newton. It's miraculous that that car did not swing back across the track and into the barrier.
It is, but it checked everybody up all the way back, and Abrams able to really get a good run here on Paul Newton. You can see him starting to weave around a little bit in that draft. The only thing that's going to throw this off, that's Mark Rondeau in front of them. Is anybody going to be bold enough to try to go 3 wide? No, they're not, but they've got to try to get past that GT2 car through the roller coaster. Ooh, a little bit of a pinch there for Abrams. That sends him wide.
And Rondeau is able to get through cleanly. I'm surprised he didn't lift a little there. Mark is 35 seconds off the next car up and 16 ahead of the next car behind. So he really didn't have to put them in that position.
Yeah, he didn't, but I also think that there was a little bit of surprise there for Mark. I certainly did not expect them to catch quite that quickly at the end of it, and so he may have just been caught a little bit off guard.
Checking the lap times between Fulton and Salehi. And first, or the 34th lap, Fulton was actually quicker by 0.2, but then they got to lap 35, and a 43.7 for Fulton was matched as a 43.4 for Salehi. This time by, let's keep these cameras on this battle here. This is a lot more interesting to watch while I try and fill you in here. A 44.9 for BJ Salehi, a 43.3. That was a big chunk.
Yeah, it certainly was. Buying smoke, a little blood in the water. Ooh, Abrams takes a big chunk at the curb coming through Oak Tree. He is really, really pushing here. Doesn't sacrifice too much speed on corner exit. He's going to be close up behind Paul Newton now. Is he going to be brave enough to make the move going into roller coaster?
He's got the draft. It's tough to go side by side into that corner, and no, he's not going to do it quite yet. Oh, gets into the back of him, turns him around, and Newton goes flying off the track. That gives 6 to Abrams.
Oh, we're going to check out a replay of this. I was going to commend Paul Newton. It was a very good defensive move. Abrams there, I think, just didn't anticipate how much Newton was going to slow down going around the second part of that corner. Got into the back of them, and now it is a lonely drive for Paul Newton to trundle around in 7th.
He's got to do so for 25 more minutes. Well, let's take a look at Eric Hagendick. Now, when did we see Alan Stad go by? Did we actually catch this, or was this an exchange that we missed?
Joe, I can actually report it happened in the pits. Stad was able to get a little bit of a quicker stop than Hagendick, and that's what sent him on by.
Well, Eric's not going to sit down and take that one. Oh, is a little bit of a strange move there from Alan as he was trying to make sense of what was going on with the lap traffic. That almost sent Hagendick off into the grass. He'll be able to get by. That is the class leader behind them, BJ Fulton. He's got to be careful here. These two might not be as aware that he's approaching because they're running their own race and fighting for position.
Yeah, exactly. He's got to be very, very careful. We have seen what can happen when you get up behind lap cars. Now they're trying to get by Jeffrey Shulam in front. Late move there from Stad, but I think that slowed him down ever so slightly. It looks a little bit like Hagendick's got to run. BJ being very conservative here. I think that's good in the short term, but I also have to think that when we get past the next timing stripe, that time back to Byron Saleh, he may be dropping.
You're right. I forgot about that. Fulton can't really sit around here. It's about 11 seconds right now as they come off the corner. BJ still stuck behind as Hagendick is sizing up that yellow 619. Oh, he's got great speed, and he's going to try and take it side by side. Stad holds the right side. That's going to be the inside of the main apex there, but he's fully passed by the time they get down to the corner and just managing to complete the pass. Hagendick up into 8th. That gap now down to 10 seconds as Salehi is reeling in Fulton.
Yeah, BJ here, I think, has got to get a move on. He has got to go for broke here if he wants to. He cannot afford. The gap is now under 10 seconds.
Wow. Oh, but Salehi caught a little bit of traffic himself. Jeffrey Shulam couldn't get out of the way quick enough. Back up to 10 between BJ and Bayern.
Yeah, that hurt him ever so slightly, back up to 10 seconds, as you said, but BJ Fulton still stuck behind Alan Stad here and Eric Hagendick. They are not making it easy for your class leader.
Remember, it took him about an hour to catch up to them, so, I mean, to put this lap on them certainly shows how close they are on pace, despite being able to lap this pair. We watch Salehi out of the snake and towards the climbing S's. Oh, and now they've got traffic from the other class there. Marc Rondeau is going to be in the way of BJ now, too. Oh, no. Oh, he wanted to get to the inside. He wanted to take that apex, but it just wasn't there. Oh, goodness.
Gap now down to under 10 seconds as they cross the timing stripe again. I think it may be under 9 seconds now. That really held up BJ.
Yeah, Salehi 8.8 up to BJ Fulton. Is BJ feeling the pressure here? Does he know that Salehi is closing, chopping this down as they get up towards Hogpen, out back on the front stretch once again? Stad and Hagendick certainly not pulling over, but the blue flags are informational only. They are not required to jump out of the way like you see with Formula One. So Fulton really, he has to do this on his own merit if these two do not want to slow up and let him past.
Indeed, and I've got to think he knows that gap down to Salehi is closing down. There is only one car in between them. That is Marc Rondeau. Oh, that's him off! That's BJ off!
Where is Salehi? He's coming up to the corner now, backing up. Fulton's going to have to give this away. Salehi, who would have thought, is going to be able to get back to the front after multiple offs. Your leader and your pole sitter is Bayern Salehi.
Oh my goodness gracious. Now we watch as Bayern gets by Marc Rondeau. He can breathe a massive sigh of relief as he is back to the pointy end of the field.
Fulton had the lead practically handed to him in this race, and yet he hands it right back with a mistake into NASCAR Bend. And on top of things, the man that he was fighting with earlier in the race, Michael Johnson, has cut this down to 2.5 seconds. Michael can see the shot at getting up into second, even though it might not be a win this race as things stand currently. I'm sure he'd love to try and claim the points.
Exactly, and we talked about earlier what these drivers do when they see their opponents in their front windscreen. It is like just a treat in front of them. They want to go for it, and that's a big lock up there from BJ Fulton coming through the roller coaster. That's going to bring the gap down to about 1.7 seconds.
On top of this, they still need to lap the likes of Stad and Hagendick, which, by the way, are still battling. In fact, they're side by side, and Hagendick is going to be able to retake the position from Allen and put himself into 8th.
It's a really good move there from Eric, who has had a up and down race this whole time. He is now able to get himself back up the order into 8th. He'll be very happy.
We've seen this a lot from Eric, though. He's quick, but seems to be a bit mistake-prone. Kind of his own worst enemy in this series. Going back to Fulton, Johnson now gets this down to 0.4 seconds. Were they helped by traffic yet again? Double checking. Yeah.
No. Were they?
Yeah, Rondeau. Rondeau was in front of Fulton through the hogpen section, and that is what has brought this to within under a second.
You're very right, Joe. I wasn't looking that far back, but now BJ is able to pull away just ever so slightly here. Gap holding at about 0.8 seconds. That's not going to be enough, I think, for Johnson to be able to fully try to get a pass down into roller coaster here, but he is certainly just going to start turning up the heat.
18 minutes to go. Does Michael have enough to stick with it? Can he keep those mistakes away as so many drivers have failed to do so today. Down and through the roller coaster once again. We see the two lights lit up on the side of that 277, denoting that he is P2 on the track. And let's not forget that BJ started from 6th today. So this has been a great climb. BJ, honestly, probably has had some of the least mistakes of the field.
Yeah, that big one that we saw him have, honestly, the only one that's really coming to my mind today. BJ's done a great job here and currently holding off a very hard-charging Michael W. Johnson and doing a pretty good job. Once that traffic has subsided, they've been able to get away. But the next problem up the road, Jerry Freckleton, only about 5.5 seconds away from this battle.
Freckleton back up to 3rd, we should point out. So in that championship fight, he is... got, actually, I think coming into this race, Freckleton had more than a win's worth, I want to say. Double checking on that, but yeah, win is worth 20 points here in this series. So it came in 29 points. So even leaving this, I'm pretty certain he might still have more than a win's worth, as Freckleton going to go very slow. And it's still, unfortunately, be a bit of a moving chicane. Whoa, and he goes off for good measure, coming off of Oak Tree. He's not anywhere near to anybody else, so that won't cause him too much consternation as long as he catches it.
No, and he caught it well there, and there's really nothing Jerry could have done coming around that corner. Michael Johnson just in the wrong place at the wrong time, trying to come around him on the outside, but Johnson trying as he can to keep that gap to BJ Fulton down. It is just vacillating between about 1 second and 9/10 of a second, back and forth and back and forth.
Let's see what it is this time by as Fulton comes to the line. Last time he was definitely slower because of Rondeau. 44 flat. Johnson, 44.2, lost about 0.2 compared to his rival. What's Salehi been doing out of curiosity? Has he been quicker than them? 44.1, 43.9, 44 flat. Let's see. He's pretty close on pace, I want to say.
Yeah, there's really not a whole lot to separate in between them. So he's keeping that gap at 7 seconds right now, jumping back and forth between about 7.5 and 6.5 here and there. But he's just kind of running the race he needs to run in the last 15 minutes here, Joe.
He's got Jad Duncan up in front of him. And he's actually going to catch him here on the backstretch. Yeah, so this will be nice and easy. Just able to move off to the side and overtake the 83.
Yep, nice and easy there for your leader. That battle that he came up to the back of, that Hagenbeck and Stad battle, that has really gotten away from him at this point. It is very much up the road, and he doesn't have to worry about it.
Ooh, down to half a second now. And Michael looks pretty good under the brakes into the roller coaster. Yes, it gains him down to 0.4 of a second. Can he get the launch off of Hogpen? Both of them trying to get the tires spun up as quickly as possible. No, it's back up to 0.5 of a second. BJ still making sure to that this 9 car has to work hard to take this position. He will have the lap traffic of Duncan. Oh, and a very twisty portion of the track. So this could be what Michael is looking for.
It could indeed. It's just going to be a matter of how BJ tries to get around this. We've seen what happens with drivers that they try to be a little bit. Oh!
And he pounces immediately. Almost. Did they make contact?
I think they did.
Oh, no. Fulton lightly into the tires. I really can't blame Michael for that one, though. He saw the chance. He had to take it.
No, that is completely a racer's move right there. All right, so here we see it coming up. BJ starts to eye up Duncan in front of him, looking for that chance to get by the slower car and just runs the car wide. Johnson smells blood in the water, dives to the inside.
I think that's ghost contact.
I think it was too. It looked like from the angle we were watching at originally that there was contact, but that was definitely ghost contact. You could see some daylight in between those cars.
Fulton might not necessarily know that. If he got a 0x, he's going to be a little bit miffed. But the case of it is that Johnson is now in 9th as Fulton is in 11th. Did Brian Salehi have a bad lap? Because it's down to 9.5. Or was that bigger or smaller than that before, and that has grown since that incident? Because I swore it was much bigger between himself and P2. But whatever the case, it's 10 seconds roughly right now, 43.6 for Bayern across the line as Johnson runs a 45.7. So it was slower for Johnson. It was an increase in gap for Soleil. My memory is just getting bad in my old age, apparently.
I was going to say, I think it was hovering around 7 seconds, Joe. So definitely that can account for what that is. But we check back in on that leader. Only about 12 minutes to go here at VIR. Does have a little bit of lap traffic up in front of him. That is the 6th place GT2 car of Aaron Edwards. And he is starting to close back in on Alan Stad ahead of him. So that may present another little kerfuffle here for him if he's not careful.
I want to give a little love to Matt Hollander once again, because he is still our hard charger, at least in the GT1 class. I need to double check what they are in the GT2s, because Hollander up from 12th position and into 4th, and that is in spite of mistakes throughout and various errors that he's had. Now, granted, he is about half a minute behind the podium, but a 4th place is a 4th place. That's going to be the same amount of points.
Exactly, Joe, and it shows you just what you really have to sort of change your mentality in order to drive an endurance race like this, even a little mini endurance race that's only an hour and a half. You just gotta stick with it because you never know what's going to happen up in front of you. Hollander was off and he was on and he was off and he was on and he just kept in it and has been able to get this 4th place, and that's a great result for the 69.
Not a lot of hard chargers over in the GT2s that I'm seeing. In fact, most drivers that gained have only gained about a single position or so. In fact, it's more losers than gainers, which is, I'm not sure how that works out, but ooh, a big lockup from somebody in front of our leader, Salehi. I think that was CPEC. Oh, no, that's a car off track. That's Allen. The 619 has sent it into the barriers.
Going around Jeffrey Shulam there through Horseshoe. Able to get that pass done nice and easy. Brings it back on now into NASCAR Bend. And you saw that bit of overcorrection. He straightened out the steering wheel, I think, a little bit too much. He was worried about locking the front brakes, and as a result, he carried too much speed, didn't scrub enough by turning, and that's what sent him straight on into that tire barrier. That
corner is a doozy. Has one of my favorite names behind, or favorite stories behind the name as well. I know it sounds kind of unusual having a corner named NASCAR, and it's not banked or doesn't appear to be any sort of oval type corner. Well, NASCAR did race here back in its first iteration, and that bend saw some big names, including the likes of the King, go off in that turn. And so it earned the nickname NASCAR Bend.
Well, there you go, viewers. You learn something new every day. I know I certainly did, Joe, so thank you.
You're welcome. I always thought that was kind of a cute story behind that one. Ooh, Travis Brown with a little bit of an off, but manages to not run into anything. The 300 just took it a little hot into left hook. The 14 of CPEC. The gap. Oh my, I haven't looked at this in a while. Jad Duncan has 43 seconds ahead to Matthew CPEC. I'm pretty certain that is actually if he did miscalculate the fuel, he could actually come into the pits, take a splash and dash, and still be in the lead here.
I think CPEC's going to be fine on the fuel, at least relatively based off of that category. Some of the other guys that I was a little bit worried about up ahead, Travis Brown, Paul Newton, they seem to be doing relatively okay. So my fear of a 2-stop doesn't appear to be founded. But yeah, Just an absolutely mega drive here. There we follow Travis Brown, currently riding around in sixth. He was one of the earlier stoppers in that GT1 category. Stopped on lap 22, if I remember correctly. That was about 55 or 50 minutes left to go in the race. Thought that might be a little bit short, but he is not driving like he's fuel saving.
No, I think he's good. Newton was the only one to pit earlier than him. And that was only a lap earlier. Newton also doesn't seem to really be struggling as he puts another lap on Mark Rondeau. 7 more minutes left. Everybody kind of just running their own race now that the gaps have grown to a point where not many will be able to make overtakes unless they get a mistake from the car ahead.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say, let's not count our chickens quite yet here, as we have seen this Virginia International Raceway really bite drivers when they least expect it. As you saw there in the background, I believe that was one of our GT2 drivers to take a little bit of extra dust with them. But this is our leader, Bayan Salehi, holding that gap at about 9.4 seconds right now as the clock ticking down just with about 6.5 minutes to go.
Taking a look at our championship order since we've got some time here. And Travis Brown, who leads the GT1s, is going to have a bit of a rough day. In fact, Johnson, even if he doesn't take the win, I'm pretty certain he's going to overtake the points lead. Salehi, though, is going to follow him. Actually, you know what? Salehi will take the points lead. He is going to outscore Johnson by enough that even though he's third, he's only 2 points, Michael. So Bayan is going to shoot up 2 positions, I think.
There you go, Joe. It is just what these endurance races can do. And oftentimes what we see a tricky circuit like Virginia International throw at these drivers. It is not uncommon for some of the GT and even the IMSA series that run here for this to be a real wild card in terms of the championship.
Yeah, sixth place, excuse me. So that's 6 points. So 14 points difference between Brown and Salehi, which is more than enough for him to overtake him, at least before the drop weeks are included. And Michael Johnson going to score 5 points fewer. So it'll be a 3-point difference, I believe.
Well, that just makes it that it is all the more exciting as this championship continues to tighten up as we go along. And rest assured that when these guys in 2 weeks' time get out to Laguna Seca, our next track, it is going to be fast and furious action across the field.
Another quick note on that championship. Corey Latvala, who has taken one of our wins so far this season, who was in 4th coming in, he's DNF today, which means he'll get a single point. He might actually be off of the top 5 after this, the way that things are looking, because Matt Hollander is one of the ones that is going to close in on him with his 4th place finish looking likely. Watching that Octavio Tequila car fly down the backstretch. When is this man going to get himself a finish on the top step of the podium? His stats are impressive. He's finished within the top 10 in every single round. He's only been outside of the top 5 in a single round. So he's consistent as all get out. Just doesn't seem to be able to take advantage when our leaders have problems. Today, what a perfect example, DJ, of he had the lead, he had the position, and it was his own self that caused his undoing.
Yeah, it's a real head scratcher and a heartbreak there for Michael W. Johnson. Could have sworn last time out at COTA he was going to be the one to really run away with the field, but things just got away from him. But I have to think, Joe, that with the consistency that he does normally put in, that mistake here today, really an outlier when it comes to Johnson's driving performance. That win is going to come. It's just a matter of time.
We'll keep watching him and see if he can finally break that duck. 3 more minutes to go. And this is Salehi. So he's getting close to about halfway through the lap. They're doing 143s. I think we're going to be 2 to go at the line.
That feels just about right. Bayern taking his way through Oak Tree. A perfect line there. He's got nobody in front of him at this point. Looks like there's a little bit of an off from him, from Paul Newton up in the roller coaster. That may present a bit of an issue.
From Newton and Brown, and this is a battle for position. So let's see what happened. Did they make contact? I think they did. We're still live. Yeah, they came together into the roller coaster here. I think this is Newton out braking himself.
All right, so that's Newton trailing behind that white machine. Yeah, there you see big off for Newton. Ooh, and just nails into Brown. Nowhere to go. That's some
Big damage that I think those cars would suffer from, I would think. Let's look. Maybe they've gotten away with it. So Travis Brown still in 6th. Remember, it's important for him to try and keep this 6th place because he's already going to lose the points lead. As we'll have an exchange here between Hagendick and Newton, also for position.
Indeed it is. That coming together there really gave us a great battle on track. There you see Hagendick falling back as they rise up through South Bend. Now down into Oak Tree. Tries to run it very wide, I have to say. Misses the apex ever so slightly. That costs him a little bit of time on corner exit, but he's still going to keep his foot in it.
This is the last thing that Bayern Salehi wants, and he can actually now see them up the road on the backstretch. So he'll be aware that they're fighting. If they don't fight too hard, I don't think he'll catch them. But if they start going side by side, he's going to reel them in at a rate of knots. Nothing doing down into the roller coaster that time amongst them.
But again, under those heavy braking zones, Hagendick really able to close up behind Newton. Now they're going to cross the line here. Oh, he's trying to make a move through a hog pen.
And I think he's going to manage to get it. Wow. That is a rare thing, getting a pass done through there. Hagendick up into 7th, as behind them, taking the white flag, Salehi has one more to go.
And then rest assured he is keeping an eye on this battle. Only about 3.5 seconds back from the tail end of Paul Newton. As now Hagendick, I think, is trying to be real racy here. He may be trying to go for Travis Brown before this thing is done and dusted.
Oh, when Edwards is slow, off track. Okay, so he's going to stay out of the way. Nicely done by the 5 car.
Bayern gets by him as well, so everything's clear there.
Still haven't been caught by Salehi either, as they climb up through the S's once again, and that's Jad Duncan, who's at a very horrible spot for some of them, but no change for position. Wow, that was tight.
They all need to go out and buy a rabbit's foot or bless their pedals right now. Woo! It's a run out from Travis Brown. He goes wide on the exit of Oak Tree, and that allowed for Hagendick to try to have a look, but it sent him wide as well.
They're going to get one more lap to settle this out. Is Hagendick going to try and go for it? He's got speed on Brown. Brown dealing with some damage. Hagendick, no, he's not close enough. As we check back on our leader, Bayern Salehi started at the front, and you'd think by the looks of things that he led from the front, but no, it was not the case. It came back as he never gave up, and he is going to take another victory here today, his 4th on the season. Bayern Salehi winning in Virginia.
A great drive from Bayern. He was up, he was down, he was all over, but able to come home on that top step of the podium. Following in behind is Michael W. Johnson, who was able to do another collected drive here. There you can see Jad Duncan going off. BJ Fulton will be about to cross the line in 3rd.
This is CPEC on your screen, easily looking at a victory. In fact, they passed Duncan, so nobody is able to pass Matthew from here. I'm keeping half an eye on that battle between Brown, Hagendick, and Newton. They're still quite close to one another. As we turn the cameras over there through South Bend. Ooh, everybody keeping it on the track. What about through Oak Tree?
They may have kept it on the track, but it was just barely. That was a better run there in through the corner for Hagendick. Again, Travis Brown runs wide, as does Eric Hagendick in sympathy. And Paul Newton says, yes, thank you. That's the opportunity I was looking for.
And we got to go to the leader because CPEC is coming to the line, taking yet another victory in the GT2 class. Let's go back to that fight. Three wide coming up to the roller coaster. I don't see this going well, and it doesn't. Travis Brown is tipped off. So is Hagendick. And guess who gets to pick up the scraps? Paul Newton claims 6 out of all that wildness.
Oh my goodness gracious, Joe. You said it. You can't go 3 wide there. It was inevitable. And that is going to be very tough for Travis Brown, not just losing that position, but as you mentioned, that's going to really hurt him in the championship.
Yeah, he will recover into what looks like 7th position. So he lost one more points going down the train as he sees that points lead slip away. That's going to take us to a break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. So stick around. Welcome back to Virginia International Raceway. What a race to the finish for some of our drivers, but it was not a race in round 10 for Salehi to the finish. He started from the top and finished at the top, but he did have to climb back up a little bit after a few mistakes along the way. Michael Johnson kicking himself for that victory, once again eluding him. He still gets second and will actually be second in the points after this, from what we can tell. BJ Fulton will finish in third, and Matt Hollander just off the podium, but getting valuable points to shoot him up, with Jacob Abrams rounding out your top 5. Paul Newton, the very end collided in a 3-wide incident into the roller coaster. He finished 6th ahead of Travis Brown, who got the car going to claim 7th, with Hagendick having to trundle in 8th. Last of the finishers in the GT1s was Alan Stad in 9th, a lap down.
Taking the win in that GT2 field from a position of 2nd on the grid was Matthew Sepek, followed by Jad Duncan. Jerry Freckleton, your points leader, was able to come home in 3rd in front of Mark Rondeau, and John Momeyer, your 2nd in points, had another disappointing day. Jeffrey Shulam was behind them, with Aaron Edwards rounding out the back of the GT2 and finishing field.
That takes us to Bayan Salehi, who manages to add to his victory tally. Bayan, it wasn't a straightforward one this time, though. It seems you had a few mistakes along the way.
Oh yeah, not straightforward at all. That was super tricky. I really do not know how I clinched the win on this one. I just think it was a little bit of luck and more or less a little bit of consistency in handling traffic, but big ups to Michael Johnson and BJ Fulton. They drove a hell of a race and gave me a hard time pretty much the whole race.
Yeah, what was it like out there? How did the car feel? Because we saw many mistakes from others, and that honestly is part of what got you back up to this lead, is everybody else faltering on top of it. Was it particularly tricky? Was it slippery out there?
Definitely. I chose not to take tires, and I think that was the right choice. But yeah, I think unless you practiced really long stints with high fuel, you would have struggled. And I did not practice enough with those long stints, and I definitely struggled and had those clumsy mistakes and just dealing with traffic and everything. And luckily, I knew that everybody would have their fair share of drama, so I just tried to get the red mist out and put my head down and just, gather some points.
Because Travis finished all the way down in 7th, from our calculations, you're actually going to be leading the championship after this round. How does that make you feel?
Oh, wow. Well, it's temporarily feels really good after that 90-minute race, because the longest thing I've done in real life around the sim is 60 minutes. So I'm just really happy with this win. But we got a super long season, as you guys know, and yeah, it's going to go all the way to the end. I have a feeling for it.
Obviously pragmatic, but still congratulations on the victory, Bayan, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you in 2 weeks' time.
Yes.
Bayan Salehi, your winner in the GT1 class, and DJ is caught up with our winner in the GT2s, Matthew Sepek.
Matthew, I think a interesting day is the easiest way to say that, but for you, it looked pretty calm out there. A 30-second gap by the end of the race. Pretty dominant win for you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it was calm, but it wasn't calm. I don't know how to say it. This track is treacherous.
Yeah, it certainly looked like it. And I know you had a couple of hair-raising moments there for you. But talk me through really what it's like with these faster class cars and seeing those incidents ahead of you. How do you sort of manage through all of that as you see the sparks fly?
I just try to stay to the center of the course and just try to be equally distant to all of the spinning cars, and but be ready to stop, if you have to. So I wasn't full throttle. I was probably like 80% throttle through that.
Alrighty, well, I got you. That makes some pretty good sense. Well, obviously, the rest of the season, we've got a couple more of these enduros thrown in there, but mainly some of the shorter races, including Laguna Seca next time out. Are you looking forward to Laguna? Are there any others you're looking forward to? How do you think the rest of the season is going to go?
I think it's going to be good. I think Laguna is going to be fun. I bet we have a lot of cars next week in Laguna. It's like kind of a really popular track, so I'm hoping to see double the number of cars out there. But yeah, I'm just taking each track at one at a time. I think I missed my favorite track earlier this year, like Okonomaya. So other than that, just looking forward to each race.
Well, we're looking forward to watching him, Matthew. Anybody you'd like to thank for this win here tonight?
Just the family and my wife.
Well, thank you very much. That was Matthew Sipik, your GT2 winner. And now Joe Peak has caught up with Michael W. Johnson.
Indeed, Michael, it wasn't a win, but it was certainly valuable points with another second place. Talk about what brought you back in. I was only able to suss it out because we just thought we saw you go off. Looks like you had some contact. Did that cause suspension damage that was terminal?
Yeah. Is this the part where I get to scream? Because I was so frustrated. There was a spun car. I think you're talking about the incident at Oak Tree, where one of the GT4s had spun, and on our internal, I said, "Stay there, don't move, don't move, don't move," and he didn't. It's just this car is really wide, and there wasn't a whole lot of space to get around behind him. And I did my best, and I was like, "Oh, I'm clear," and all of a sudden, bink. It was like after I passed him, all of a sudden the car started crabbing, and I had to. It was literally the lap I came out after my pit, and I had to go back in and get the quick repair on that.
After that happened, did you feel like you had pace to try and catch guys like BJ or Bayern, or did you kind of settle into the idea of, okay, this is just going to be a second place?
I was pretty sure I had him. I'm good at this track. This is my home away from home. One of my teams, TechSport Racing. Hi, TechSport. We are based here. This is our home track, and we have tested everything from little grocery getter B-spec cars up to prototypes here. So I've driven everything you can imagine at this track. So I know it very well. I have a lot of fun at it. I know how to toss any car into any corner and make it come out right, as long as there's not a stopped car in the middle, apparently.
I can understand the frustration, but I believe if it's any consolation, I believe you will be 3 points behind Travis Brown, Bayern Salehi after this race. So you are still incredibly close to this championship lead.
Yeah, I think I would have had the championship had it not been for that. I would have been in the lead, but at this point, it is way too early to be looking at anything like that because I've got a vacation coming up. I've got a couple of real races coming up. So not sim races, but real life races. So I may end up missing a race or two. So every last point that I pick up is incredibly important. And of course, showing good for the Octavio Tequila RSR. I mean, I got to get out there and get them on screen, right? That's my job.
Exactly. Well, the good news is you do have the drop weeks, and that will help you out a little bit, having some of those real world obligations. Commiserations, it wasn't a win, but a podium notched up. Is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Well, I'd like to thank the entire GT4 field because there was, at least for me, I don't think everybody else had the same understanding, but as I came through, I felt like communication was good. Everyone was clear. Traffic is always an issue. It wasn't for me today. I felt like traffic was very good. And thanks to BJ, we had that I think it was lap 44, right at the end, right close to the end, where I got past him. And there was an unfortunate netcode incident there. And he actually just messaged me saying it was netcode. And of course, Octavio Tequila, Ben Bettenhausen, and Sanjay Mehta, all my supporters, all my fans, everybody out there. Next time it's going to be the top step.
All right. You heard it here. Michael Johnson, he pointed to the outfield and is figuring on a home run. Meanwhile, a very good run for Jad Duncan to at least manage second today. And I believe DJ has caught up with him.
Yeah, Jad, that was a very chaotic but good run for you. Obviously, started on pole but fell back a little bit, but it seemed like you were just driving the wheels off of that thing.
Yeah, it was a fun race. My main goal was to drive clean, and I screwed up on the second corner. So I kind of put myself all the way in the back and had to do a fast repair. So not the way to start a race.
Well, talk me through that moment, because we were all looking at it and you messed up our fuel calculations when we were looking at things because you had the pit stop and we had to remember that, but that's not the point. But going through that, I mean, you had to scythe your way through the field. Did that change your mentality at all? Were you being a little bit more aggressive, or were you just going, I'm going to take every opportunity that comes and not try to push too hard on him?
I didn't want to push too hard because I knew if Matthew drove a perfect race, I wasn't going to catch him because he was 30, 40 seconds ahead. But if he made one mistake, I wanted to be there. But he didn't. He drove perfect, so I had to settle for second. Just worked through everyone slow and steady because this track is so hard to keep your wheels on. If you touch the grass, you crash.
Most certainly. Well, I do have to ask you then. So do you prefer tracks like this that are a little bit more of those sort of GT, old school? I guess we tend to think of them, frankly, as a little bit more American style courses with a lot of the grass and that kind of stuff. Or do you like the stuff like last week out, like Coda, that's got a little bit more of the paved runoff, a little bit more modern?
I think I like this. You pay for your mistakes. And I don't like the tracks where you have to guess where they're going to throw you a penalty. Where this one, if the penalty is clear because you crash. Some of them you cut over the red berm completely on one corner, and then if you touch it on another, you get a penalty point. And I hate having to learn which corner is which all the time here. On this track, it's pretty clear. If you touch the grass for the most part, you're going to crash, and that's your penalty. There's no off-track penalties that you have to really watch piling up like last week at Coda.
Well, Jad, my iRating may tend to disagree with this point, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. I love these kind of tracks. But this is a really great run for you, man. Anybody you'd like to thank for standing on the second step of the podium tonight?
I just want to thank all the other drivers. They did a great job, and Matthew for arranging all this. It's a really fun event, and this hour-and-a-half format was something new. I've never done a race like this before, so it was quite an experience trying to figure out how much fuel to use and how to do pit stops and all that stuff. And then next week, we have to drive the RSRs, so that should be fun. I know Laguna. I've actually been on that track, so this is I won't have to learn the track from scratch like I have been, so that'll be nice. So we'll see how it goes next week or in 2 weeks. Looking forward to it.
I can tell you we are as well. And Jad, congratulations again. That was your second place GT2 finisher, Jad Duncan. And now Joe Peak is catching up with your third place finisher in the GT1s, BJ Fulton.
Indeed. BJ, it sounds like you've already communicated with Johnson, understanding that it was a bit of net code between you. I take it there's no hard feelings between the pair of you?
No, not at all. It always just seems to be us coming together, though, for some reason. But that wasn't really anybody's fault. We were close racing, and the computer thought we were closer than we actually were. But I made too many mistakes before that to put myself in that situation anyways. So it was a frustrating race for me, even though I came in third.
Well, for a brief while, you were in the lead. And when that happened, knowing that you haven't taken a victory yet this season, were there any nerves? Were you starting to feel it in the cockpit, or were you pretty collected?
Well, I was feeling pretty good about it because I had a nice gap to buy in. He was closing me a second here and there, so I was kind of concerned. But it was really just the lapped RSRs that held me up for a lap, and I couldn't get around them. And I guess they weren't yielding to the blue flags. So I think if I had gotten around those guys faster, I could have continued to maintain that gap to buy in, and maybe had a chance for the win.
Well, you still got plenty of races left this season to try and stand on the top step. Laguna Seca seems to be a familiar one with a lot of you guys, since many of you hail from California. Is that one that you consider yourself pretty experienced at?
Yeah, definitely. It's the only track I have, 600 laps of experience in real life. But we're switching cars next race. I don't know if they told you. We're going to be driving the GT4s, and the other guys are going to be driving the RSRs. So it should be real interesting.
Yeah, I was given the heads up on that. So certainly should be a fun time. Congratulations on the podium. Is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my wife and my parents who are all downstairs supporting me and watching the race. They've been helping out a lot while they're in town and letting me spend some time on the sim so I could do this 90-minute race at VIR, which was no joke.
Yeah, I can agree on that one. It looked tough. That was BJ Fulton, who finished in third. And I believe up next, we've got Jerry Freckleton, as DJ's caught up with him.
I have indeed, Jerry. A bit of a roller coaster of a race for you, as much as this circuit is, but you've got to be happy to walk away from a massive endurance race like this with a podium position.
You're not kidding. I mean, this is probably the most stressful race that I've done so far. this year, and I mean, I was biting teeth. I had 2.5 really bad mistakes that really could have put me in a harm's way, I guess you would say. But you know what? I got to be proud of how I ended up today and how I've done so far this year. I mean, with the work of Michael Johnson helping me out and the Airwolf machine running really hard, all it is me trying not to put myself out.
Well, you did a good job doing that, I'm sure. Talk to me about sort of how your mentality has to change a little bit. We've kind of gone from the diametric extremes here, going from, you know, Coda, big, modern to this, where any little runoff is going to hurt you. Talk to me about how you prepare and change that when you're coming into this race.
Well, I'll tell you, Michael Johnson really helped me out a bunch. I was really having quite a bit difficulty with my braking here, and I went pulling hairs out, and I had to end up going into my sim on my pedals and even readjust them and kind of relearn how to use the pedals and drive here. And it was, I'll tell you what, I had a lot of experience before this race of driving on that grass. I was on that grass more than I was on that track trying to learn this track. It was quite an experience.
Well, I'll tell you what, you did him pretty well. Anybody you would like to thank for this really good one? You're looking good in the points. So anybody you'd like to thank for this and for the rest of the season?
Well, of course, Michael Johnson coaching me and helping me out how much as he does. GSRC, the Porsche Owners Club, all the members and stuff. Everybody did a great job. And there's a group that sponsors Corey, which is Schmidt Racing. Well, I just want to put a shout out to Daniel and Gear. They watch every single one of these races, and they're quite the fans. So we wanted to say how do to them, and we appreciate everybody that's involved with this, and we just keep on plugging and having a lot of fun at it. And sure glad I had a chance to talk to you guys again.
We're glad to hear from you, Jerry. And last but certainly not least, Joe Peak tonight has caught up with Matthew Hollander,
who we, as far as we can tell, is the hard charger of today. Matt, we said it at the start that it seems like mistake mitigation is going to be key here today. Would you put that down to how you got from 12th to 4th?
I would say 100% that was the case. It was tough after running the tribute to Le Mans over the weekend out at Willow Springs, trying to get on the sim tonight. First couple laps were just trying to kick the cobwebs out. It was pretty nasty, but was able to put the head down and surprisingly was able to kind of run the same lap times from start to finish, just kind of kept them consistent while within a second of each other. So I was pretty happy about that.
We noticed a lot of drivers seeming to have problems with traffic, though. It kind of was one of the big things that the storylines that kept going throughout. How was it from your perspective? Were you happy with how you saw lapping cars?
You know, I think the majority, I'd say 95% of the GT4 guys are really starting to get good about it. You know, we're all on Discord for the most part talking to each other, so we can kind of call out, hey, we're coming up, you know, if you give us space, they can call us kind of where they want us. Kind of gets away from that, you know, them staying on their line. So it's a little mixed messages, I guess, sometimes, but they're starting to get better at it. There's still a couple culprits that need a little work, but I think for the most part, the GT4s are starting to get really, really good with the lap traffic.
Well, it was a lot of fun to watch this endurance round. You head back to a traditional 30-minute race, I believe, at Laguna Seca. Are you looking forward to heading on to home ground?
Well, absolutely. That's one of my favorite tracks, probably next to Sonoma. Driven it a bunch. Probably was the second track I actually drove in real life when I was like 15. So should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to swapping up the cars, hence why throughout the season, I've jumped in the GT4 a couple times just to utilize some of my drops to practice in the car. So we'll see how it goes.
Awesome stuff. Well, congratulations on a top 5 out there today, and can't wait to talk to you out in California.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Joe.
It's Matt Hollander with a 4th place today and a very good run from one of our league organizers. So let's also thank a few of our sponsors before we head out. Of course, Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Sunset Mortgage. Don't put your money in the bank, be the bank. Check them out today at sunsetcash.net. And Octavio Tequila. Celebrate now. For a great tasting tequila, go to octaviotequila.com and purchase today. And finally, Century Financial Consultants, making the rest of your life the best of your life. You can check out their website at centuryretire.com. Thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. There's also a social media. We've got the outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store, simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. The next race will be at Laguna Seca Monday, May 31st at 11 p.m. Eastern. Going to be a fun holiday for that one. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.